Captain Picard. Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
My Readier Room.
Hello, and welcome to the Readier Room, the only and longest-running Star Trek The Next Generation rewatch podcast. Every week on Sunday and in or around Sunday, we are bringing you behind-the-scenes stories of what happened with every episode in chronological order for your listening pleasure. My name is Mitchell Mells, Chief Consultant Services at Paramount, and with me is my life partner, Brandon Hobbs. Now, before we get into our very important discussions, I believe somebody has some explaining to do with something that they posted on the Readier Room Twitter account without me knowing until it blew up, and I had to find all these responses. So, you want to explain that for us, Brandon?
Well, Mitch, all I can say is that I'm not perfect, and I don't proclaim to be. And if you start digging through my old posts, you're gonna find some things that maybe aren't acceptable in the modern day. So this post was what, 3-4 days ago.
Yeah.
I can't. We can't all be held responsible for things we've done in the past.
It's true. It was a different time, I feel. I'm willing to forgive and move on.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that the ensigns are as reasonable. But
I think they will be.
Cultures change, right?
Well, yes. I think we're a very progressive podcast. We have very progressive content, but I think we've cultivated a very anti-cancel culture fan base.
Yes.
Which, cancel culture it's possibly the worst thing that's ever happened historically.
I think so. I remember that time, 60, 70 years ago by now, where they canceled all those Jews. Just terrible.
Yeah. And then all those Soviets got canceled.
Right. It's an epidemic.
Don't forget the French cancellation.
Oh, jeez.
Of the 18th century.
Now, one of my favorite bands, System of a Down, they're always talking about a particular cancellation.
Yes.
that our president, Joseph Biden, recognized. He said this is a cancellation. And it's calling attention to this culture, these issues. That's important.
Yeah, although I don't know if I necessarily believe that one.
Oh. I see.
But, look at that Shang-Chi fella.
Yeah, just look at him.
Just look at him. Just look at him. Oh, Mitch. Oh, man. Yep.
He wasn't a part of Star Trek, but I'll still look at him.
Yeah. He wasn't a part of Star Trek, but he could play an alternate universe George Takei. He could.
They're basically the same. I'm not sure who's Chinese and Korean, but
Yeah.
Just look at him.
Yeah. He looks like a young George Takei.
He does. He is quite. How do I put this delicately? Flamboyant.
Yeah. Yes, that's a great way to put it.
Yes. He's a little if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I think he's trying to trying to cover that up.
Now, how do we feel about the our Asian male romantically frustrated ensigns?
Well, yeah, I think the world has really done them dirty.
Could you expand on that?
It's not their fault. It's not their fault that the white man, and the Asian woman are the perfect couple. And I understand there's not enough Asian women left for them, but it's just the way the world works. Maybe they can date someone else.
Well, it's
some other race.
You have to consider how amazing it is that there's not enough Asian women left for them when one considers the population of China, India, and other densely populated Asian locations.
Yeah, well, the old statistic.
I do.
20% of the men get 80% of the women, right?
That's
called hypernogamy. Hyper. Right?
I think hypernogamy. Like origami.
Yeah, like origami.
Right.
Right, because it is an Asian thing.
Right.
Okay.
Or scorigami, if you're familiar with that. So it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. I can understand the position those ensigns frequently espouse, and and even Shang-Chi himself, he's in on it. That something's going on. Now here's a question: when they did the wrap of the shoot of Shang-Chi, they finished shooting, and you take a commemorative picture. Did the photographer hold up the camera and say Shang-Chi's?
You know what? If he didn't, I would be disappointed.
I'd be disappointed too. And I'll have to, call some of my connections to confirm what happened. But keep hope alive, 2021. Hashtag Shang-Chi's.
Hashtag Shang-Chi's.
Do you have anything burning a hole in your mind this week? Any topics that you have to get out of your pocket?
I don't think so. There's that missing white girl.
There is that missing white girl. Once I found out she was white, I started to care. And
once I found out she was white, I stopped caring. We're not allowed to I don't think we should be allowed to discuss stuff like this when the minority population is dealing with so many issues.
That's true, but it's strange for me. I always considered myself an intersectional radical feminist, and of course I'm if these crimes befalling women, I'm very, very in tune with the patriarchal root causes of them. But at the same time, if my feminism only includes white women, then it's not really feminism. So I'm torn in two directions here. Neither of them will save this girl, but
you could just be less intersectional than you thought you were. Maybe you're intrasectional.
Ooh, I don't want to be intersectional. I want to be intersectional. I almost said intersectional, but that's something else. So it's tough. I'm really having a bit of an identity crisis these days, and my support groups aren't very helpful. They
what are they saying?
They always ask me to take my hood off. Which, whatever.
See, that's just insensitive.
It is. It's a culture. It's not a costume.
Yeah. I don't know. If they have a problem with it, then maybe they're not your friends.
Maybe they're not my friends. Are you my friend?
Well, I mean, are you going to take your hood off?
Are you going to ask me to?
You know what? For the interest of the podcast, I don't think I will.
Thank you. That's a friend right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've been missing. I also want to point out I consider the ensigns to be my acquaintances. It's the most I'll allow them.
Wow, that's a big deal.
It is a big deal. If you're putting you're filling out a job application, you need a reference, you can write my name down, you cannot write my phone number. And hopefully that'll get you far. That's what I'll
Here's a
I'll
question.
Yes.
Have you been recognized yet out in the wild
for my service?
For the podcast, the Readier Room.
Right, yeah, that's my service.
Oh, right.
Yes, I have. I was actually at a Denny's, and it was me, and I won't say who I was with, privacy, but we were sitting down and we were ordering, and sometimes I like to do the radio voice, the podcast voice, just when I'm in and around town. And I said, "I'll have a grand slam, please." And the server looked up and said, "Are you Mr. Host?" And I got a little embarrassed, and I'll admit it. But I guess gave a knowing nod and kind of the shush gesture with a wink, keep it on the DL. But I actually tipped that server, so I kicked them a little something for being part of the Ensign fam.
Oh, good. Yeah, I mean, you have to when you're recognized like that. You do have to tip.
Well, I didn't feel obligated. I could. You know me. I'm bulletproof. I could survive a mean tweet.
As a public figure, though, it's just it's probably the best thing to do. But you're right. It is a little embarrassing. My local Starbucks that I've been going to, probably since a couple of months ago, I went in there. I was standing in line. There were probably about 8 or 10 people in front of me, and one of the staff comes over to me and she says, "Brandon Hobbs, why are you waiting in line?"
Ooh.
And it's just so embarrassing. But I looked around, everyone was staring at me, giving me these dirty looks, and I was like, I don't know. And of course I moved to the front of the line and I got my coffee early.
Did you
I did tip as well.
Did you spit on the ground as you left?
No. No. These are our fans.
Well, I mean, the one or two baristas you interacted with, but Starbucks and Denny's as chains, they're not our fans.
Well, they could be. Let's not badmouth possible sponsors.
All right, that's true. By the way, starting on what day is it? It's 26th. So starting in 2 days, September 28th, you can order a Moon Over My Hammy at Denny's. $8.99.
Wow, Mitch, that's interesting.
Yes, it is. And I will be going to Denny's. We love to see you, Benny's.
Yeah, my favorite dish is the Grand Slam.
Oh yeah? What do you like about the Grand Slam?
Well, it's cooked to perfection.
As is everything at Denny's.
That's right.
So go to your local Denny's and tell them, make sure you say Readier as you complete your order for 5% off your subscription.
Right. And that's when the waiter comes over.
Right. So he approaches your table. You have to say it before he says anything. So it's kind of like a game of Uno, right? The waiter comes over, he kind of is fast, Readier, and then he knows.
Because you have to be readier than he is.
Exactly. That's right. If you're not readier, then you just don't qualify for the discount.
Right. If you're not readier, then are you really readier?
Right.
Is the question.
It's like the inverse of 30 minutes or less or your pizza's free. And it's like now you have to put up or shut up.
Yes. We want to cultivate an audience that's successful here.
Right.
I think.
Just general readiness in the world,
Yeah.
If everyone was a little readier, then we as a society we would have been better equipped to handle pandemics, genocides, cancellations, all that stuff.
All those nasty things.
Yeah. So
those icky things.
You know what we always say here at the Readier Room, that it all starts at Denny's. So be sure.
That's right.
Yes,
that's right.
Be sure to take advantage of this offer. It lasts until May Day of next year. So
yep. So you got a long time to take advantage of this offer, and don't forget, Denny's, here, your family.
Well, I think that will bring us to our question of the week, which this week comes from Question 2000, the question asking robot. And question asks, beep boop, what is your favorite Riker episode? Beep beep, thank you for all that you do. Boop, stay readier. End transmission. All right. So for Riker episodes, I know you and I are both fans of James T. Riker. And there's a wealth to choose from, up to and including the Riker flashback episode in season 2, which everyone loves.
Oh, yes. I can't wait to get to that one.
Got a lot to say about it.
Yeah.
But to not blow our proverbial load too early, talking about a Riker episode from that we're not going to get to soon. Recently, I'd rewatched... I don't even remember the name of it, but the one where Riker is in the mental institution and he's kind of like jumping between there and the Enterprise.
I'm trying to remember that too, because that was going to be my pick.
It's so good.
It's incredible.
The acting is not, but the scenario is.
It's one of those episodes that I would show to someone who had never watched Star Trek before. Never watched TNG before, and say, if you like this, you'll probably like TNG.
I like that approach. I'm going to open a carbonated beverage. There we go. I like that approach, but I will say that is in kind of the upper 10th percentile, or 90th percentile, I guess, of TNG episodes, right? So if you show that to somebody first, not a lot of episodes are not going to reach that high, but conceptually,
yeah, I suppose so.
Conceptually, it is what TNG is about.
Just knowing that some episodes do reach that high, I think, is kind of inspiring for people. I think there's kind of an idea, a stereotype among most people that Star Trek is, dull. Too hard sci-fi kind of.
Well, that's the image it always had relative, especially because it was compared to Star Wars. And that's obviously the more fantastical oriented, more about one hero's adventure, a lot more heart, even though Star Trek does have a surprising amount of heart. But look, yeah.
even in the 80s, by that point, we're talking about a show that first aired in the 60s. So it's kind of like out of vogue. There
was also the first Star Trek, the motion picture, which was, akin to 2001 in just how dry and slow it is.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember talking to somebody recently. I was getting their opinions on the Star Trek films, and they were going on and on and on about whatever one it was where they go to San Francisco to save some whales or something. And I was like, well, what do you think of the first one, the motion picture? And they're like, oh, I fell asleep. I didn't really watch it. I wasn't into it. For your average person, that's what Star Trek is a lot of the time.
Right. Well, on the topic of the fourth film, where they save the whales or whatever, that's the best one because they go back in time, and we like to see that. Star Trek 4
save the whales, gotta save something, was the direct inspiration for upcoming Picard 2.
Right. I think we actually talked about this on the previous
we did, but I'm
podcast.
just shedding some more light on it. You know how
okay.
how there's this intricate tapestry of Star Trek that is all woven together and all informs on one another.
Yeah, and I don't think we can stress enough just how much everyone involved with Star Trek really loves to put these characters in 20th century America, you know? Or Canada,
Toronto. Canada's honorary America, for what it's worth.
Yeah, basically.
Would you have a second favorite Riker episode?
Second favorite Riker episode. That's a tough one. I know there is one, but what's the one where he goes undercover like as an alien?
That actually happens in the one that he's in the mental institution, but there's also the one where he's undercover in a alien race that's on the verge of space travel.
Yes, that's the one.
And it becomes like a first contact episode because
that might be one of them.
Yeah, that's where that weird alien nurse is like trying to jump Riker's bones in the operating room.
Which I clapped at personally.
Well, if I recall correctly, we got some actress or comedian to play that role. I don't quite remember who though. Once they get under the makeup, it's all the same person to me.
Yeah, I mean, once we start going over that episode for the podcast, I'm sure we'll have more information on that.
Join us in 3 years when we get to that.
Oh, is that all?
That's all. I mean, after you hit 50, 3 years is a drop in the bucket.
That's true. It goes by like a flash.
Right. Like the Flash, even. That's a superhero. He runs quickly.
He is.
Yes. So, I want to thank Question 2000 for your question. If you're like Question 2000, the question asking robot, and you want someone to answer your question, you can email us at thereadierroom@gmail.com or send us a DM on Twitter at @thereadierroom. Ask us anything you want, usually about Star Trek, but not entirely. We'll probably answer it if it's good. And yeah, join us next week for another question of the week. Join us this week now for some primo discussion on the Royale, which is
the Royale,
which is episode 12 of season 2.
That's right.
I think we're now more than halfway through season 2. I think, or maybe
is it? What do we have? 23 episodes?
Yeah, something like that. It's not the normal 26 that we'd inevitably settle on.
Right.
So, thank God we're almost to the bearable part of this fucking show.
I know. We're getting there.
It's only been 9 months.
So, what did you think of the Royale?
I didn't think of the Royale. I prefer not to think of the Royale. Maybe.
Yeah.
It's hard because this is by a long shot not the worst episode. It is just so exceedingly average that I struggle to form a very strong opinion of it. And
yeah.
While I was watching it, I guess I expected it to be worse than it was. Well, I mean, it's once that you see the casino set.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. I get what you're saying.
Right. And then it's like surprisingly decent, but still not great.
But by then you've already kind of checked out.
Yeah.
When you check out that early, it's kind of like it really has to pull you back in, and it does not pull you back in at all.
No, it's the epitome of you can check out, but you can never leave. What did you think?
I'm probably about of the same mind as you. I was very bored. I spent most of the episode checking my emails.
Very nice.
Cutting my fingernails, doing just about anything else besides watching the episode.
Can I tell you about my recent Star Trek ritual?
Sure, let's hear it.
So I've recently started, after watching more TNG, not just for the purposes of the podcast, but just to unwind, which I'm surprised that I'm doing. But I'll go to work, come home whenever, these long shooting days, and I'll turn off the lights in my house, put on an episode of TNG, and watch and eat curry while watching it. And
wow.
Every one of those steps is very, very integral to this ritual. If the lights are on, it's not as comfy. If I don't have curry, it's a different food, it's not as enjoyable. And and of course TNG itself lends a certain magic to the proceedings. But I have done this maybe the past 3 or 4 nights. So I've eaten curry 3 or 4 nights in a row.
Curry and TNG is a nice combination. I will agree with that.
It's comfy.
I recently had a dream where I was cuddling with Worf.
That's problematic.
Is it?
I don't know if Michael consented to that dream.
Oh no!
Mitch,
I didn't think about that. No, I didn't get the chance. Oh god, now he's gonna hear this.
Just tweet at him. At the Worf. Sorry to bother you, but I recently had an intimate dream with you, and I wanted to ask for consent. Just tweet that at him; it'll be fine.
Maybe one of the ensigns can do it.
That's good. Ask for consent on Brandon's behalf. Yeah,
please do. But anyway, to get back into the episode at hand. Look, it's so boring. We already stopped talking about it. This episode was actually going to be filmed for season 1.
It feels that like a season 1 episode.
Yeah, it was that far back conceptually. It was originally going to be, so Tracy's script was originally going to be a lot more surreal, more focused on the astronaut who was alive. And it would be like a time loop thing or something like that.
It does kind of set itself up to be a time loop, right?
It does, yeah.
The astronaut mentions in his diary that these events keep playing out, and you can imagine the Enterprise crew going through a loop or two.
Totally, yeah, and it doesn't do that, but yeah, that was the original concept, and I think most of us did like the original script at least a little bit more, but for many, many reasons, the producers were not really having that version of the script, so much so that Tracy would change his name to Keith Mills to be credited for this episode. Just kind of threw away all credit for it. A lot of drama there, but the end product, the final episode, it was just really boring. It wasn't. It was cute and funny, but not funny enough. It wasn't particularly thrilling. The mystery wasn't interesting.
No.
The characters weren't interesting.
You can imagine iterations of this that does each of those different things, one of them well. For example, where they find out they're trapped in the Royale, that could have been a lot more tense or creepy of a scene, but it was just kind of Worf pushing on a wall and be like, well, I guess we're trapped here.
Yep.
The humor could have been played up. Now, there were 2 explicitly funny moments in this episode that I identified, at least. One of them was the score for the the scenes of like the bellboy talking to the assistant manager. Like that overly ridiculous lounge music.
Yes, it was almost parody,
right? And that was funny. And then later on, when they uncover the astronaut, Riker's like, "Oh, he died in his sleep," and then Worf just out of frame mutters, "Oh, what a terrible way to die," which was pretty good.
Oh my god. Yeah, I don't remember who played the astronaut, but it was actually his final role in a TV show.
Yeah, we kind of I remember
So,
he pledged his retirement and we kind of gave him a send off.
yeah, it was beautiful, I think. I mean, very, very good job. But in terms of funny, I enjoyed Worf calling the elevators turbo lifts.
Oh, that was also good. I saw that moment. It didn't register to me as overtly comedic, other than consistent with the lore, I suppose. But it was
Yeah.
it was a nice bit of writing.
Yeah, yeah. And just the way they acted around the I mean, it's the natural conclusion of placing these characters in an age where elevators are the way they are in our time, but
Right.
it's funny nonetheless. I mean, they did it well.
They walk up to it and it doesn't just automatically open. It's like, oh, this is
Yeah.
malfunctioning. Data
Yeah.
hits the button.
More of that fish out of water writing. That's why we love to send them back in time.
Are fish out of water jokes the bottom of the barrel of just comedy writing? Are they worse than puns?
Possibly. I mean, they're very easy to do,
Right.
especially in science fiction like this. So maybe.
I'm picturing the gross exaggeration of a fish out of water joke where so just take any random sci-fi setting, character goes back in time to the 1950s and they're in some house and they see a blender and they just, whoa, what's this? And they stick their hand inside of it and turn it on and just mutilate themselves. It's like, ah, and then someone runs in, no, that's not how you use a blender. And then they take out like their bloody stump of a hand. And,
Yeah.
like this. And they put some fruit in and then everybody has a laugh.
Now that would be silly.
That would be silly. We like silly.
We do like silly. So God, where else to go here? The sets, I thought, were god awful.
I think they were god awful. I kind of liked the hotel room set, if only because hotel rooms and hallways, there was also that cheap hallway set, by definition look artificial.
Yeah.
And the cheapness of it somehow played to the strength of what that was supposed to be. But the lobby set I thought was really, really uninspired.
The lobby was, first of all, it's nothing like any casino looks at all.
Right.
It's too anachronistic for the time period we're supposed to be set in.
Right, because that's the 22nd or 23rd century or something.
No, I don't think so. The guy that Texas, I think, says he has like a car from like the 90s in the parking lot or something out front.
I guess it was the book that was older than the vessel.
Yeah, that's the thing. And it's like, you could explain all this. So I mean, so as I was saying, the casino's too anachronistic to be in this age at all. And I mean, it's too, everything's too spaced out. You'd never see that like at all. It's just the interior design is horrible. Well, and
it's supposed to be a hotel lobby with a functioning casino in it rather than a dedicated casino, and I'm not quite sure.
I guess so.
How realistic that is to begin with. Yeah. So I don't know. But it certainly does not look like a good set.
Right. It was obviously very cheap, very cheaply made. And well, I forgot what I was going to say about it. I thought I had a point, but no, I just hated it.
It's anachronistic, you said, which is true.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry. It could be explained away by the fact that, and we'll get into more of this either now or later, how stupid this is, but it could be explained away by the fact that aliens built it and they didn't have a frame of reference for anything except the admittedly poorly written book.
Right. Which, yeah, that's logically consistent, but not a very satisfying explanation.
No. And I don't think it is the explanation from a meta standpoint at all.
No, I think it was just we're shooting cheap television,
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
and that's why everything has to look like this time period where we barely
And
need any costumes. Just the elderly people can
the
show up in what they own.
yes, and the ensigns can explain it away any way they like, but you're hearing it from the horse's mouth here. It was just a bad set.
And it was a terrible set. We talked about how it inspired the feelings of just sorrow and resignment on us while seeing it. You know, when the camera cuts to it and we're just like, oh, okay, I guess I'm done with this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. They walk into that casino and it's just like I didn't sign up for this.
The set itself is very deflating to the episode. That's how bad it is.
It is. But also partly because it's again another set in like the 20th century, which we don't need any more of.
Which is very annoying because the hook of this NASA vessel is from the 23rd century. It's got 52 stars. It's it's not so far into the future, but it's not our time either. Like that's interesting, you know? Exploring this alternate past yet our future, so it's still speculative. Like that's a cool idea, and they touch on that for a line of dialogue, yes. And then it's 20th century casino.
Yeah. This just goes back to my constant pet peeve with Star Trek, where everything in the show's past has to also be our past. The writers refuse to make up a past for the context of the show.
You want to write a characters go back to the past episode and make them go back to the near future. Like have them go back to 2000. Yeah. 100.
But 10. That would be bad for the budget.
It would be bad for the budget. Everything would have to have random plastic rings glued onto it. Mm-hmm. Show how futuristic it is.
Right. Everything would have to be like very round.
Yes, translucent plastic.
Yeah. I can't wait for that.
It's lame. Star Trek's fucking lame.
Yes, this episode really evokes that feeling.
So here's a question. Speaking of lame, what's your opinion on when they initially beam down to the planet and they're in a black void with one revolving door? I said how seeing the casino set really took the wind out of my sails, but the three of them, Riker, Worf, and Data, standing in a black void was also a pretty head-scratching moment.
I don't know, because that had places it could have gone, I guess. I mean, a black void and a revolving door offer more to the imagination than a poorly constructed casino set.
That's true, but that feels a little unfair, or should I say overly charitable, because you put a black void anywhere and the mind is just going to wander to fill it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's kind of just the natural conclusion to you like extrapolating
right
on the scene.
This is why improv theater works,
Right.
Somebody's just standing there with no props or anything, and they're just miming, baking a pie or whatever, and you're like, oh my god, they're really baking a pie.
Right. And people usually are much more charitable when it comes to improv than they are with scripted comedy, understandably. So yes, I guess you're right, but it's a scene where I still didn't know just how bad it was gonna get, So
yeah, if only,
in that way, it's better.
If only you knew how bad things truly were.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A lot of fun though on the set with that revolving door.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I remember this. This is probably the TNG memory that sticks with me, that pops into my mind while I'm in the shower, before I go to bed, while I'm in traffic, whatever. So Jonathan Frakes was, he had to go through that revolving door a few times, and of course, it's not like we just have people kind of pushing parts of the door, and we didn't even have the whole revolving door, but we had people kind of pushing parts of it, and the actors kind of had to time it to walk through to not break the illusion.
Right.
And
right.
Brent and Michael, it was fine. They saw the speed of the door, and they speed up to go through it. And Frakes just wasn't playing ball. He would intentionally walk slower than the door was going so that it would bump into the back of him, and the people manipulating the prop had to slow it down, and then he would speed up so to catch them off guard again. And we did like 10 takes of this, and I between like takes 10 and 11 or whatever, I asked John, like, what are you doing? Why can't you just walk through the door? And this is what I will remember until I die. He looks me straight in the eye and says, sometimes you need to remind the door who pushes who. And
that's actually a little bit deep.
It is. I'm not quite sure what he meant by it, but I've thought about this constantly.
Well, the door drama was further compounded by the fact that we couldn't afford to set up a door that rotated 360 degrees, right? As we already talked about, this was an extremely cheap set. We were trying to keep the budget down for this episode, despite all the kind of new sets we were using. So we used a little bit of an optical illusion for this door. It would only rotate 180 degrees, and then we would use like a stop motion sort of method. So not only did the actors need to be synchronized, we had to make sure that this cut was completely clean, between the two rotations.
Right, them entering and then exiting the door.
Yeah, so Frakes was annoying basically everyone on the set that day.
I hope the doors at least learn something.
Well, I mean, according to Frakes, God, this is just it's food for thought. It's chicken soup for the soul.
It is chicken soup for the soul. It's chicken soup for the prop master's soul.
Maybe he learned something.
Maybe he did. I know he learned how much he hated Jonathan Frakes.
We all have to learn that someday.
Yeah, and you
inevitable.
Can't be in this line of work, no matter what production you're on, for too long without cultivating a rich, earned hatred for Jonathan Frakes.
So we not just with the door, but we had a lot of fun with most of the set. Actually, in our off hours, didn't we?
Yeah. So you can't set up a bunch of casino tables, props or not, without people cutting loose after a day's work.
Right.
So especially John. It's always John. I don't know why John is the nexus of activity on TNG, but
it wasn't just John.
It wasn't just John, but he's there somewhere. He's the catalyst.
The instigator.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this time it was him and Michael. And Michael's usually a pretty tepid, reserved individual, but not this time, I suppose. Him and John in a match of bravado or recklessness. I don't know.
Sheer masculinity.
Yes. Machismo.
There you go.
Challenged one another to a game of, quote, heads up, strip blackjack, which is a harrowing event to think about with these guys, but they needed a dealer, so they just kept conscripting female extras until they would, just inevitably run away from how, uncomfortable it was watching these two like big tall guys just stripping in front of them.
Yep.
It was one of those things where it starts off and people are like, feeling the contact high of the moment, and we're like, yeah, hollering, woo, it's fun. And then, 10 minutes into it, it's tapering off, and then 20 minutes into it, we're all just like, oh, it's
People
still
start
going.
walking away.
Yeah.
And then there's only like a handful of people left just kind of watching these guys quietly take their clothes off.
I remember Michael was down to his underwear, and Frakes had both of his socks on. And the last dealer said, all right, I'm going to pack in for the night. Frakes reached across the table to grab her arm and hold her there. Said, the game's not over yet. And I couldn't bear to stay any longer. So I had to duck out at that point.
Yeah. We're lucky in a lot of ways that we didn't get shut down.
We are.
For this.
So the lore goes that Michael ended up winning, so I guess Frakes really lost his shirt that night.
I guess so.
Enough of this bullshit. So at the beginning of the episode, let's talk about the events of the episode chronologically, aka the most thrilling way to recap something.
Okay. So they. A Klingon cruiser tells them that there's like a ship floating in atmosphere or something of some planet.
Already, this is strange.
Yes. Because the Klingon ship tells them this?
Yeah, it's like, who cares? Who gives a shit?
I agree with that. I don't think Klingons would ever concern themselves with that, nor would they stop a human ship to chat about it. But, whatever. They're allies, so we'll take that as a given. Now, Geordi records a temperature at the beginning of this episode that is impossible to exist. It's below absolute zero.
Oh, tell me more. I don't know about this.
I can't remember what the temperature actually was. We'll have to check the script here.
Was it like 2 degrees Kelvin? What other wacky temperatures do I know? He says
Centigrade.
Nasty.
Nitrogen, methane, liquid neon. Surface temperature minus 291 degrees Celsius.
So that's below absolute zero. The complete absence of heat.
That's below absolute zero.
That's amazing.
It's impossible for that to exist.
We're usually pretty good about the random technological things that we say not being complete. They might be nonsense, but they're not like provably wrong, I should say.
We had Greg, we had our science consultant kind of with his hands full on other stuff this episode. So, which I guess we'll talk about when we get to it, but I guess this was just overlooked because of that.
It is a pretty throwaway line. When you think of Celsius, it's just, whatever. That's a real temperature. Yeah, I'm sure this is fine.
It's not even. I mean, like when you look at a temperature in Celsius, your eyes kind of glaze over.
Right.
Your brain just kind of slows to a crawl, and
I had assumed that negative 290 degrees Celsius was like, I don't know, 60 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, right.
So I can see why this got overlooked. Now,
I suppose so.
Here's the thing, that when people heard that line, more people were kind of wowed by the slight improv there. The nasty, right? Because there's nothing nasty about a temperature. It's just cold, or there's no heat. Whatever.
Right.
What actually happened was that day Denise had to come by the set to pick up some residual check that hadn't been paid out yet. And when she walked in the door, we were actually recording, and LeVar saw her, and that was just his reaction to Denise coming back on the set.
Yep.
And it was so genuine that it for a lot of people, it just didn't register as improv. It was just, oh, that's the script, I guess.
Right. Yeah. No, it was really good. I think he spoke for most of us, at least.
Yeah.
We all really felt that.
You know how they say when there's a solar lunar eclipse to not look directly at it? A lot of us practiced the same thing whenever Denise was around. And
yes.
LeVar not having the warning didn't have that benefit, and that was the result.
Yes, it's a very dangerous game to play. You start losing your faith in humanity.
Well, the thing is, when you work with someone like that every day, you get a little desensitization. But this
Mhm.
far into season 2's production, that had worn off.
Yeah. It's like when you stop watching ISIS beheading videos for a little while.
Right. I gotta get back on
Come
that.
back fresh. I know. We haven't had a lot of them recently.
It's sad. They should
Did
start.
you see the one with the 2 girls?
No. How was that?
Oh, it's a masterpiece. I'll send it to you later.
I think they should start a GoFundMe to get the production of these back kickstarted.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Maybe we should pitch that to them.
Instead of a GoFundMe, it'd be a GoFund Us, ISIS.
Wow.
Yes.
You got the branding all figured out.
I do. I'm a branding master.
That's why they call you the brander.
That's the ISIS. Just if you're listening, call me. We can arrange an arrangement. So
shout out to ISIS.
So following this Klingon, what does the temperature even have to do with anything?
I don't know.
So there's wreckage. They beam it aboard. And it's like, oh, this is a NASA vessel, and they're very far out.
Yeah,
from
which
Earth.
is you do the kind of the soy face when you see it.
Oh, it's like
Yeah.
NASA, which is
ultimately
inconsequential to the events of the episode, I feel.
It completely is, yes.
So that's pretty fucking lame. And I enjoy the sheer coincidence that the one piece of wreckage they beam aboard is the piece that has the NASA logo on it.
Yeah, they could have just as easily just beamed aboard like a metal plate with nothing on it. In fact, they could have done that and nothing about this episode would have changed.
No, not at all. In fact, it would have... Imagine that happens, and there's a reveal later on in the episode, like, oh, there's this dead humanoid. It is a human.
Yeah.
There's this diary. He's from NASA.
Oh my god.
Oh
my god.
The mystery of it all still wouldn't have been all that meaningful to the events of the episode, but it would have been paced better, I feel.
Exactly. Yes, you are totally right. That is ridiculous. I didn't even think of that.
The thing is, they needed a stinger for leading into the intro.
Yeah. Sometimes that stinger is our undoing.
It's a real strange constraint to place on oneself.
Yeah.
Like imagine here's the rationale. There exists a person who knowingly tunes into TNG, will watch the first 2 minutes and then make a decision on whether or not they want to watch this new episode or not. It's like, I'm a fan of TNG, but these 2 minutes, they weren't really all that, so I'm out. I'm done. And the catering to that person has fucked up a lot of scripts over the years.
A lot of scripts for a lot of shows, and yeah, we got the brunt of that quite a bit at TNG. But so I don't remember how they decide, because I was already kind of checked out. I don't remember how they decide they need to beam down.
They identify that there's some kind of storm and that there's a do they read a life sign down there? Maybe not.
Maybe.
Something like that, but they identify that there's a storm and there's a habitable zone inside of the storm that that is oxygenated or something to that effect.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they say that it's risky so that they can risk a minimal away team comprised entirely of their top officers.
Yes, we have Riker, we have Data, and we have Worf. Definitely probably the 3 most useful guys on the ship. We were actually going to include O'Brien in that away team, trying to expand his role a little bit because he was kind of up and coming. But the writers decided against it from a realism perspective because they just couldn't figure out how to write an Irish character that wanted to leave a casino.
It was a difficult ask.
Yeah, ultimately we would have had to leave O'Brien in the casino and just cut his character completely. So in the interest of having him in further episodes, the writers cut that. But yes, like most episodes, we have the three most valuable people on the ship beamed down to an unknown location in the middle of a storm that's raging at below absolute zero.
Then they beam down to a literal black void. Nobody sees a problem with this. None of the characters think that's strange at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then they see the revolving door that we spoke so highly of.
Yep.
And they say, fuck it. Let's just go in. So they do. And they enter this casino. This hotel casino. Now, here's the thing. They know they've lost contact with the Enterprise, but they make no attempt to leave the casino at first. Riker's like, oh, this seems fun. Let's just hang around.
Yes, and not only that, but Troy can feel that.
Yeah. No communications can get through, but Troy's empathy readings, not at all masked by the thousands of people on the ship that are closer to her in proximity. But she remarks, or maybe Picard remarks, how it's out of character for Riker to not immediately seek to reestablish contact with the Enterprise by leaving that location. And the assumption is that like something happened to stop Riker from acting as he usually would. But no, nothing happened. Riker just acts out of character, as stated by the characters of the show.
Mm-hmm. There's actually a line near the end of the episode where Picard says, "Don't get out of character, Commander."
Yes.
He commands him to. So I don't know if this is all a commentary on some kind of metafiction.
Interesting.
You know? But two very weird lines, both uttered by the same person. But yes, Troy can feel that far away, and I'm glad she can, because I would have been worried about Riker if I didn't know he was feeling playful.
Amused.
Yeah.
This is ostensibly Troy showing her usefulness for once, but her informing Picard of the situation does nothing to actually affect things. Picard doesn't take...
Yeah, well, I guess it saves people the trouble of worrying about it for a while.
I guess.
You know?
I do want to meet the individual who watched this episode, and until Troy cleared it up for them, was on the edge of their seat, like, no, Riker's in the casino.
That's what she's for. That's why your character exists.
And then when things take a darker turn, she's like, oh no, now Riker's feeling anxious.
Now Riker's sad.
You can't have your characters just say how they feel.
He starts acting in character.
The idea that they cannot leave the Royale, I don't think is ever really expanded upon, of why that has that effect. Like,
yeah,
because they can't.
I don't know.
They try to leave and they just reappear on the other side of the revolving door through some trick photography, and it's never quite explained why there's this rather arbitrary condition of being able to leave the hotel. Because if it's if it's supposed to be a safety mechanism, it's like, oh, it's dangerous outside. We aliens, we built this to protect this one astronaut, so he can't leave. Then why is there a victory condition under which they can leave?
Yes, that's exactly the question I was going to ask. Why make it a game if the idea is to protect the astronaut from, I guess, his own actions, from wandering into the sub-zero storm?
Congratulations, we tried to make amends for killing your friends, and we made a death game where if you win, you earn the sweet release from the prison that we built for you.
Yes. So, and this gets into the territory of, I guess, the whole concept of the episode, which I took umbrage with. You know, we never see the aliens. We don't know anything about them, but what we do know is they must have had some kind of intelligence, and intelligence either equal to above the human intelligence.
It would have to be above. The things that they're capable of, they've kind of generated a non-Euclidean space. They have made entities that can think that are neither man nor machine, as stated, and they've created a localized time loop.
Yes. So basically Q level stuff.
Yes.
And to think that they would be fooled, to think that they had no idea what a piece of fiction was, is mind-blowingly stupid.
I like to think that they have to be so far advanced, like extremely advanced, to look at those astronauts like somebody would look at a baby bird that fell out of a tree.
Like a squirrel, yeah.
Yeah, where it's like you're so far below us that the base amount of comfort will last you for decades with no adverse effects. Like, I'll put a wheel in here and you're good to go. You can run on that, and that's all I need to do. Poke some holes in the box, and that's fine.
I don't know, but even Q understands the proclivities of human beings, you know?
True. He does like to play dress up.
To look at a culture like humanity and not see some kind of sapience beyond the hamster wheel idea is, I think, it betrays a kind of ignorance that I don't think even an out of touch alien race that's way beyond our intelligence would portray, you know?
True. You have examples in both Q, Nagilum, of higher level beings recognizing humanity for what it is. So yeah, this is ridiculous. I buy that.
But I do appreciate the irony of a man being trapped in a horrible novel for the rest of his life.
It is
pretty kind of funny.
What I like a lot about that reveal is that it recontextualizes some, I don't know if I would say embarrassing or ridiculous moments as overtly comical. Namely the novel's characters, their conversations. The first time you watch it, you kind of scratch in your head, like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
And like the score kicks in, and it's just you don't know if you're laughing with the show or at the show, and then they're like, oh, this novel is a cliche rag, and you're like, it is. I'm laughing with the show. Okay.
Right. Because the show's not sincere, and if you're not sincere, you can't be criticized. Right.
Indeed.
Kind of like our friends Jay and Mike, also big Star Trek fans.
Yes, both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I invited them to our barbecue this past summer. I assumed that my text got lost in the mail.
Yeah, it must have been. They're not ones to decline an offer like that.
No, it was an offer that they couldn't refuse. I mentioned that I was going to be making both burgers and hot dogs. So
yes. And did you tell them you'd stop being their friend if they didn't come?
No, but it was implied through my use of emoji.
Gotcha. Yep.
Actually, the entire message was written in emoji, but it's more emphatic that way.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we have them. That's why they're called emojis. Right.
They're motion on jokes. It's more of a J than a G, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So the what was I about to say? Oh yeah, the Royale, the novel, has like an interesting, I think it's interesting, an interesting story behind it. So everybody knows Gene Roddenberry, or they know of him. They knew of him because he's dead.
Yes, he is dead now.
He created Star Trek, if you didn't know. But he was also just a general creative, and he sometimes would just write novels, published or otherwise. Mm-hmm. And one day, somebody was poking around his office after he kind of stopped being so involved with TNG, and they found an unpublished novel written by Gene. Now, the name of it wasn't the Royale, but we took it back to the writer's room, busted out a few drinks, started reading it, laughing, having a good time. This went on into the wee hours of the night. And a lot of the commentary that you hear from the TNG characters about the Royale novel was just direct lines from that group read session of Jean's novel. So
that's great.
In a way, this episode was just a send up to Jean in a lot of ways.
That's incredible, and I imagine he was none the wiser. Of course,
he was not. I mean, you can't just tell Jean, "Oh, Jean, I raided your office," looking for an explanation. But yeah, Oh, that was a fun night.
That's great. I'm sorry I missed that.
You would have loved it. What we did was we kind of had a rotation system going where somebody would read a page, then they would pass the book along to the next person, and after the next person had a book, the person who was reading would do a shot. And that kind of went in a circle for the longest time. And it didn't take long.
Okay, so you rotated reading and shots.
Right, you read a page, pass the book, do a shot.
Ah.
Super fun.
Sounds great. Man. That puts this episode in a whole new light, doesn't it?
It does. Now, that was just
Maybe it's not so bad.
That was just the writers, though. I mean, we still have all that drama with the actors and Frakes.
Yeah, and as we talked about the sets and all that junk, yeah.
So not everyone was in on the joke, as it were, but
yeah,
if you knew, you knew.
Yeah, as usual, and that's why we're here, so the ensigns know.
And now they know. If they know, they know.
Yeah, so what else happens? They spend some time gambling. I liked how this was kind of a natural progression of Data's fascination with poker. Data seems to get a lot of this development, where one episode introduces something to him and he follows up on it, like later on.
I mean, it's helped by the fact that Data is the most interesting character on the show.
Yeah, and the most blank slate, I suppose.
Right, but I'll admit, I do like that, how this is a callback or a payoff to something from an earlier episode, but I do take umbrage with Data's complete misunderstanding of strategy.
Yes.
Especially with blackjack, which has no nuance to it at all. It is just probability. And when he first starts playing, Data's like, well, if I'm to reach 21, I must hit in this position. And then he, disregarding the odds of not busting versus the odds of the dealer busting. And, he just wins anyway, which is a complete misfire on what Data's strength should be. Data shouldn't be lucky. He should just be probabilistic.
Yes.
But then later on in the episode, when he gives advice to the woman who was playing blackjack, and he's like, well...
it's completely wrong.
Right. That's not, I'm unfamiliar with a poker face, so I got bluffed, which makes sense that Data wouldn't have that element of strategy down, but this is just math.
Yeah, just a complete lack of understanding on the writer's part how to play poker. That woman actually... I guess this was one of the more surrealist aspects of Tracy's first draft of the script. Which Maurice, as we talked about, was not really happy with. The idea that a woman could hold her own in a game of blackjack. We had her playing at that table as an equal.
Right.
Initially, or Tracy did. And we ended up tapping Greg, as I had said before, our science consultant, who did confirm for us that the female brain was indeed incapable of processing the basic math required for most card games. So we ended up, making I think a more realistic depiction of a woman at a poker table.
Right. I mean,
where she's kind of nudging the guy next to her for advice the whole time.
You have to remember, Star Trek is science fiction. It's not fantasy.
Right. Although I think we could have taken some liberties. I mean, we show successful women all the time in TNG.
True, but how often are they successful with math-related habits?
I guess that's true. They are genuinely successful with more female-oriented things, right? Such as reading emotions,
being a
having
mother,
babies. Yep.
Arranging flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the usual stuff. Yes.
Let me ask you something. Going to the gambling again.
Yeah.
The final hurrah for the gambling where Data goes to the craps table.
Yeah.
Did you feel offended after there was a solid 2 minutes of just wasted time where Data throws the dice? It doesn't like get the perfect result. Then he talks to Riker. Riker says, just fucking cheat. And Data says, well, I guess these die are unbalanced. I guess I will balance them. And then
Oh my god.
crushes them a bit and then just throws 17 winning die rolls in a row.
Was I offended? I don't know if I'd go that far. But it was stupid.
It was stupid. And it's illogically stupid too, because just because the die are imbalanced doesn't mean Data couldn't accommodate for that with his throw, rather than like having to do this more unrealistic thing of like crushing them into balance with his hand.
And the whole conceit of it is stupid. They're buying the casino?
Right. Based solely on the fact that is what happens in the book, I guess.
Yeah, I guess, which I mean internally makes sense, but it's just such a stupid plot point for an episode based in a casino. I don't know. I don't know how else to put it.
Now, the first time they walked into the casino and I saw this on set before I'd read the script, I said to myself, they're going to have to gamble their way out of this.
Yep.
And then they did. And
yep.
I felt I was gonna say I'd feel smart, but that's just the most obvious way to take this.
It's obvious, and it could have been good, but in practice, it just didn't work.
It could have been good if it was gambling, and Riker has to use his poker face skills.
Right. Right. If it was earned.
Right. Not just Data cheating.
Right, there's no suspense at all. Everyone's cheering them.
All right,
there's no conflict here.
Let's write this again. So let's rewrite this climax.
Okay.
So it's changed the game to poker, and all three of them, Worf, Riker, and Data, they get their chips and they go out to different tables, and kind of a montage of cutting between them playing the game in different ways. Like Riker, he's like bluffing somebody with his poker face. Data goes on about probability. He wins a hand. Worf kind of intimidates and strong arms a guy into folding. And it's just, this montage-like sequence. Their chips pile up. And they win the money through their cunning skills and character traits. Maybe there's a hand where Riker goes all in and there's some tension there in the cards, and it's like, Commander, how did you know that the final card would be an ace? And sometimes, Data, you just have to trust the poker gods.
Yes. I would like to add to that, they have to be playing against Mickey D.
Yes.
Who is revealed to be the owner.
That's it. Okay. Okay. So they're at 3 different tables. They're all winning, and then Mickey D sees this is suspicious, and he comes in and he says, "Okay, you big rollers, how about you step up to the owner's table, you three and me?" And then Mickey D like gradually knocks Data and Worf out of the game, and it's just Riker and Mickey D left, and then there's this Rounders style final hand of I'm all in, and like whatever.
Or you know what? Go through one loop where they lose and they realize the house is cheating or something.
Oh
somehow.
My god. That's good.
And then they do the next loop and they know, and then they play the actual real game, like no cheating against Mickey D.
That's good. That's good.
Look, we got stakes.
The episode would have an antagonist, which is something.
Yeah. Maybe he even knows. Maybe Mickey D is like self-aware.
Oh my god.
Or something, and he wants to keep them trapped there because he's stuck there too.
I've been waiting for the foreign investors for hundreds of years now.
Yes. Oh my god, yes. Now I'm just getting angry, Mitch.
I could see this version requiring a restructuring of things because it demands a lot of time.
Yeah.
But, just cut all the scenes of Worf pushing walls limply,
Right.
and you'll have the time.
Right. They could have cut some scenes on the bridge.
The Troy stuff.
Yeah. What else could they have cut?
You know what would work?
Maybe some of the. Well,
Yeah.
let me just get this one point out, and then I'll let you go. But they could have cut kind of the games that they played for laughs. You know what I mean? Like the whole thing with Texas and the woman who was stupid.
Yep.
They could have cut that and replaced it with something with a little more stakes, maybe, or done that, but actually have it serve a purpose to the plot.
How about this? They cut literally every interaction with the Enterprise, the crew on the Enterprise, playing up like, okay, communications are severed.
Yeah.
We can't get through. There's more of a heightened mystery here. The audience is separated from Picard and everyone else. They feel a little uncomfortable. And that combined with like cutting the more silly text stuff, plenty of time to add in the time loop element, create an antagonist, have an actual triumph moment.
Yep. That's perfect.
All right,
we just solved this episode.
That's what Picard season 2 should have been, is reimagining a lot of bad TNG episodes.
They should have tapped us a little bit more,
yes.
Instead of, not that we didn't do an important job on Picard 2, but we could have always done more.
If we had more creative decision making power.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
And I think that says all we can really say about how we felt about this episode.
Yeah, I'm certainly more enamored by our version of it.
I am too. It sounds much better.
I guess I'll restate my thoughts on it for the ending. This episode was not terrible. It was the most 50% average episode I can conceive of.
Yep. And we've in our hashing it out here, we've really driven home the fact that this episode had no antagonist. It had very few stakes.
Yes.
Very little intrigue, very little interesting mystery to it. And I think the best thing it had going for it was a few little comedy moments, which, if I missed this episode, I wouldn't really be too sad about it.
No, you can definitely skip this episode.
Yeah. So for all you ensigns who listen to this before you watch the episode, be our guest. Go ahead and skip it.
This one's on us.
We already gave you a better one.
Right. You're welcome. So what do you got from me?
Well, I couldn't figure out. Let me grab this thing. Just to reintroduce, we're talking about the comic book Star Trek Mirror Broken, which features an alternate universe Picard with a beard who's mean.
Did you hear that? It was the sound of a million ensigns closing the podcast.
I can't figure out how to ask you a question about this character in all the ways that I want to describe what's going on, so I'm going to ask you kind of a stupid question.
Sure. I love those.
What is Mirror Universe Wesley's haircut?
Mohawk.
You're close. I'll give you one more.
I kind of want to say an inverse mohawk where it's just shaved down the middle, but it's spiked in some way.
Yep, spiky and gelled up. Yep.
Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
Well, I got it. And I know this is a portal for you to tell me about Mirror Wesley Crusher, so just go off.
Yeah, so Dr. Crusher is stationed on the Enterprise when Picard steals it. And of course her son Wesley is there, and he pretends to be retarded.
I guess
he's introduced and he's like insane and stupid. And he's just sitting there like hunched over in his chair.
Mhm.
And then Picard says something like, "Okay, you can drop the act now, Wesley." And then he becomes the smartest person on the ship.
Is there an explanation given for this?
No, I don't think so. I don't know if this is meant to deflect. I don't know what this could possibly serve for Wesley to pretend he's retarded in the mirror universe. You would think they would just have killed him, you know?
Had he been retarded?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's serving Dr. Crusher in some way. Maybe, I don't know, allowing her to keep him around doesn't make any sense to me. But I found the introduction of his character absolutely ridiculous.
I assume that this is supposed to be old Wesley acts smart in the normal universe, so he should act stupid. But that if that was the case, it would just him actually being stupid.
Right.
Now you would think Wesley would have been born a girl in the mirror universe. Everyone should have.
He probably should have been born a girl no matter what. Probably would have worked out better for him.
I would have felt less guilty about masturbating to him in that case.
That's true. And well, let's not go there.
Yeah, let's not. That's this
trivia
time.
Episode.
So is Wesley more sufferable in the mirror universe?
No, he kind of just like poker faces everything. But he's like, oh, I ran the numbers on whatever, and he's a genius still. He's still a little piece of shit.
Does he save the day?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Does he have a moment of falling in love?
I don't know if there's a day to be saved in the mirror universe.
Do they go around ruining days?
Kind of, yeah. It's the mirror universe.
Right.
It's like opposite day.
So are they like just a ship of brigands or something?
I don't know. I mean, they are part of some kind of Earth military organization, but they betray their allies quite often.
That's so funny to me. I just love this this idea of a coalition in the mirror universe of everyone backstabbing each other.
It's ridiculous. And then, of course, the conceit of the comic is that Picard needs a team he can trust, which is just so counter to the nature of human beings in this world.
Do mirror universe Klingons exist? Are they?
Yes, they're allied with the Romulans, I believe.
Okay, now is their culture completely different?
No.
Oh, so
I don't think so.
They're still just honor and.
I mean, we don't see them, so
maybe
they are different.
Do we see Worf?
No, Worf isn't in this universe. Well, he is, but he's not.
I guess
he's not part of the.
I guess that would make sense if it's like Romulans and Klingons allied, like you said, instead of Klingons and humans. So why would Worf be with the human crew?
Right.
Interesting.
So I don't know. Maybe I'll find out what mirror universe Klingons are like.
Well, I hope that Dorf is canon in the mirror universe.
I hope so too. I mean, for everyone's sake.
Right. Well, maybe we'll find out next week on our next installment of Brandon Reads Us a Comic Book. Well, I'm looking forward to that. It's always my favorite part of the show, especially as I continue this streak of getting some of them correct.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully next week we have a better episode of Star Trek to talk about at the very least.
I sure hope so.
It's still season 2, so probably not. But be sure to join us then. You guys at home, you wonderful, beautiful ensigns, you bring your best to the show. We'll match that best with our countless, undeniable energy. And until then, everybody, I implore you to keep those around you safe, to stay vigilant, and as always, stay readier at Denny's.
The troublesome little man-child.
Consider that in the history of many worlds, there have always been disposable creatures.
Do you consider yourself superior to us?
have told him to mind his own damn business.
When I stroke the beard thusly, do I not appear more intellectual?
Computer! Freeze program.
It's not a promising beginning.